Look at a clock. Any clock will do. The one hanging on your wall, the one on your phone, the one tucked into the corner of your screen at this very moment. Count the numbers. 12. It's always 12. Every clock you've laid eyes on in your entire life, every watch you've strapped on, every tower in every town square across every country you've ever set foot in. 12 hours, twice each day. 24 hours in total broken into two mirror image cycles of 12, spinning endlessly, governing every scheduled instant of modern human life. Now ask yourself something you've never been asked before. Why 12, not why 24? That one has a stock answer involving ancient Egyptians and how they split daylight from darkness. No, I mean why 12 on the clock's face? Why does the cycle reset at 12 rather than some other digit? Why cut the day into two halves instead of experiencing it as one continuous count? And beneath that lies the real question, the one that froze me when I first stumbled across it. Was it always 12? Because the more I dug, the more I turned up evidence that it wasn't, that there used to be a 13th hour, not a secret hour, not a hidden one, a real, working, recognized division of the day that appeared across multiple timekeeping traditions in multiple civilizations. And that was, over a specific stretch of history, deliberately erased. Not lost to time, removed from time. And the erasure wasn't about efficiency, simplicity, or the natural evolution of measurement systems. It was about something else entirely. Let's start with what we know. The 12-hour clock face isn't ancient. It feels ancient. It feels like it has always been there. But the dial as we recognize it, the circle with 12 marks, became standard in Europe during the 14th century, alongside the spread of mechanical clocks. Before that, timekeeping looked radically different. Sundials broke the day into varying numbers of segments depending on the culture. Water clocks measured continuous flow, not discrete hours. The very idea of an hour as a fixed, equal-length unit is itself a medieval European invention. In the ancient world, hours shifted. A daylight hour in summer was longer than one in winter, because hours were divisions of available light, not of some abstract mathematical day. This raises a simple but crucial question. If the 12-hour system was a specific historical choice made at a specific moment, what alternatives got rejected, and why? The deeper I went, the more 13 kept surfacing. Not as a number on a clock face, but as a structural principle in how civilizations organized time before the mechanical clock locked in 12 as the only option. The ancient Egyptians, who gave us the earliest split of daytime into 12 parts, also recognized transitional periods. Dawn and dusk weren't classified as day or night. They occupied a liminal space, a threshold between the 12 daylight hours and the 12 night hours. Some scholars argue these transitions functioned as a 13th division, a time neither day nor night, with its own character and purpose. The Egyptians didn't just ignore the gaps between light and dark. They named them, gave them meaning, built rituals around them, and they weren't alone. The pattern shows up with unsettling precision. In traditional Chinese timekeeping, the day split into 12 the shichen, double hours, each tied to a zodiac animal, 12 divisions, yes. But embedded within that system was the concept of transitional moments between each shichen. Liminal points considered vital for divination, medicine, and timing major decisions. The 12 divisions weren't the whole system. They were the visible shell, inside which additional temporal distinctions operated. When the mechanical clock arrived in China, it flattened all that complexity into 12 identical hours and tossed out everything in between. In Celtic and pre-Christian European traditions, the day wasn't a simple binary of day and night, but a cycle with multiple thresholds: dawn, midday, dusk, midnight. These weren't just transitions. They were seen as times of power, moments when the boundary between ordinary, and extraordinary grew thin. The old Irish system recognized specific named periods that don't fit neatly onto a 12-hour grid. The day had a felt rhythm, not a counted one, and that rhythm included moments the 12-hour clock would later erase by forcing all of time into equal, featureless segments. And then there's the one that made me stop researching for an entire day, just to sit with what it implied. The Ethiopian calendar and timekeeping system, still in use today, operates on a fundamentally different logic from the Western clock. The Ethiopian day starts at dawn, not midnight. Hours are counted 1 to 12 from sunrise, then 1 to 12 again from sunset. But here's the key detail. The system explicitly acknowledges that the transition itself, the period of dawn, the period of dusk, exists those outside the counted hours. Those thresholds are recognized as real, as significant, as belonging neither to the day count nor the night count. They are functionally uncounted hours, hours that exist but aren't numbered, a 13th and 14th space in the day the Western clock refuses to admit. The silence was deafening when I started asking why the Western mechanical clock specifically eliminated these transitions. Why, when European clockmakers standardized time in the 14th and 15th centuries, they chose a system that recognized only 12 numbered hours per cycle and nothing in between. Why were the transitions, the thresholds, the liminal moments that nearly every pre-mechanical tradition had considered important enough to name and ritualize? Why were they compressed into nothing? Into the gap between 11:59 and 12, into the movement of a hand that passes through the threshold without pausing, without acknowledging, without marking what every earlier civilization had recognized as a moment of significance. And here's where this stops being about clocks and starts being about something far larger. Because the 13th hour, the threshold hour, the transitional space deleted from standardized timekeeping, wasn't just a unit of measurement. It was a concept. The concept that time has seams, that the day is not a smooth, continuous, homogeneous flow of identical minutes, but a living rhythm with distinct characters, with moments of transition qualitatively different from the hours on either side. Dawn isn't just early morning. Dusk isn't just late afternoon. They are experientially, biologically, psychologically distinct states. Every human body knows this. Every nervous system responds differently to the quality of light at dawn than at noon. Every culture that ever existed recognized this, and the mechanical clock said no. The mechanical clock said every hour is the same. The mechanical clock deleted the seams. The official explanation crumbles here. Because the standardization of the 12-hour clock wasn't driven by science. It wasn't driven by a discovery that time is actually homogeneous and earlier civilizations were wrong to see it as textured. It was driven by commerce, by industry, by the needs of an emerging economic system that demanded time be uniform, divisible, and abstract. You can't schedule factory shifts around liminal threshold hours that different and carry ritual weight. You can't coordinate trade across distances if every locality recognizes qualitatively different times of day that don't map onto a standardized grid. You can't sell an hour of labor if an hour isn't the same as every other hour. The deletion of the 13th hour was an economic act dressed up as a technical improvement. As if they were following instructions they didn't fully understand. The deeper I went, the more the mechanical clock started to look less like a tool for measuring time and more like a tool for redefining it. Before the clock, time belonged to the community. Church bells marked the hours, sure, but the actual experience of time was local, variable, tied to light and season and the rhythms of farm work. After the clock, time belonged to the machine, and the machine demanded uniformity. It demanded that 300 in the afternoon in January feel the same as 300 in July, even though every cell in your body knows they are not the same. It demanded the deletion of qualitative time and its replacement with quantitative time. Time as a number instead of time as an experience. And 13 was the first casualty, because 13 is the number of lunar cycles in a solar year. It's the number of months in calendar systems that synchronized human life with natural rhythms. The same calendar systems I've investigated elsewhere, the ones systematically replaced by the 12th-month Gregorian calendar. 13 is the number that connects the body to the sky, the menstrual cycle to the lunar cycle, the human animal to the cosmos it evolved within. And it is the number that was specifically, deliberately, repeatedly eliminated from the systems governing modern life. 12 months instead of 13, 12 hours instead of 13. 12 as the number of completion, of civilization, of order. 13 as the number of superstition, of bad luck, of something to be avoided. This raises a question I can't stop asking. When did 13 become unlucky? Because it wasn't always. In many pre-Christian traditions, 13 was sacred. It was the number of completion in lunar-based systems. The number of the full cycle, the Last Supper, with its 13 participants, is often cited as the origin of 13's negative association in Western culture. But that explanation has always felt thin to me. A single biblical meal doesn't account for the depth, the visceral, irrational fear Western culture attached to the number 13. Hotels skip the 13th floor. Airlines skip the 13th row. An entire phobia, Triskaidekaphobia, exists for one number, not for any other. Just 13. What if the superstition isn't ancient at all? What if it was manufactured? What if 13 became unlucky not through organic cultural evolution, but through a deliberate campaign to stigmatize the number that represented the old systems? The lunar systems, the body-centered systems, the systems that had to be discredited for the new 12-based systems to take hold. You don't just replace a calendar and a clock. You have to make the old system feel wrong, feel dangerous, feel cursed. You have to make people afraid of the number itself, so they never think to ask why it was removed. The pattern repeats with unsettling precision. The 13th month was deleted from the calendar. The 13th hour was deleted from the clock. The 13th floor is deleted from buildings. The number itself has been made culturally radioactive. And each deletion serves the same function. It removes a trace of the lunar system, the lunar system, the body system, the system that synchronized human life with natural cycles rather than institutional schedules. Each deletion is a small act of erasure, and the cumulative effect of all these small erasures is a population that lives entirely within an artificial temporal framework, with no memory that any other framework ever existed. And here's what I keep coming back to, the physical evidence. Because your body still knows. Circadian rhythm research has documented that the human body does not experience time as 12 uniform hours. The body experiences peaks and troughs, transitions and thresholds, moments of heightened alertness and moments of deep restoration that don't align with the clock on your wall. The afternoon slump that hits most people between 100 and 300 isn't laziness. It's biology. It's the body insisting on a rhythm the clock refuses to recognize. The difficulty of waking in winter darkness isn't a character flaw. It's the body insisting that dawn means something, that the transition from dark to light is a threshold that deserves recognition, not an alarm that overrides it. We live in a state of chronic temporal dissonance. Our clocks say one thing, our bodies say another, and we've been trained for centuries to trust the clock and ignore the body, to treat the body's temporal wisdom as inconvenience, as weakness, as something to be overcome with caffeine and discipline and alarms, that tear us from sleep in the middle of biological processes the body is trying to complete. The deeper I went, the more the deletion of the 13th hour started to look like one piece of something much larger, a systematic disconnection of human beings from the natural temporal rhythms that had governed every aspect of life for millennia. The deletion of the 13th month from the calendar, the deletion of threshold times from the clock, the replacement of variable light-based hours with fixed abstract hours, the invention of artificial lighting, making it possible to ignore the difference between day and night entirely. Each step was presented as progress. Each step disconnected the human animal a little further from the temporal environment it had evolved to inhabit. I'm not telling you to throw away your clocks. I'm not telling you the 13th hour was a magical time when the veil between worlds grew thin, though I find it interesting that virtually every modern culture described their threshold times in exactly those terms. I'm asking something simpler and more unsettling. I'm asking what was lost when time was flattened, when the seams were deleted, when the day became a featureless grid of identical units instead of a living rhythm with its own texture and its own transitions. I'm asking what it does to a human being across generations to live inside a temporal system that contradicts the body's own knowledge of what time feels like. I'm asking whether the chronic exhaustion, the sleep disorders, the seasonal depression, the pervasive sense that modern life is somehow out of rhythm, whether these might not be personal failures, but systemic ones, symptoms not of broken individuals, but of a broken clock, a clock that used to have 13 hours, a clock that recognized thresholds, a clock that knew what your body still knows, but your schedule won't let you remember. Handed a 12-hour clock, and told it was the only way time had ever been measured. What else have we been handed and never thought to question?